Hello. Live. Yes.
Hi, friend.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Oh my God, this is so exciting.
I know. We haven't chatted in a while.
I know. And I love that we're doing it on TikTok. Why do I hear
Finally.
myself
It
double?
only took me like all the pandemic to get to 1,000 followers.
We got 1,000. We're here.
Yes. So I'm an HR consultant and
I'm a career coach, hence
she's a good one.
TikTok career coach.
And she's a good one. They're not all good.
Thanks.
The whole
I
reason I followed her is because it was like, oh, finally a career coach that's giving really good advice. Yeah.
I don't know. Can I see who's live? Did they change this?
So you can only see your followers and I can only see mine. So
Oh,
if one of
okay.
your followers asks a question to me, hi Declan, I can't see that. So like if one of my followers has a
Oh.
question for you, I have to read it to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This is my first one doing it dual.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I want to know what makes a good career coach.
Oh, I think
Because they're not all
someone,
good.
this is true. I have seen a couple that I was like, I I don't know if this is coming from their lived experience or if it's like research based, but I think a good career coach is someone who focuses on the development of the person they're working with. Why do I hear myself double? Let me take.
I don't hear you double.
Okay, this is better. Maybe I should put this headphone.
That sounds better, but I didn't hear you double. And for people joining, she's an awesome career coach. They're not all awesome. And I'm an HR consultant. So we're hanging out.
Yeah. Oh, this is better. Yeah. Okay. So, yes. So, hi, I'm Delicia. I know my name is TikTok Career Coach, but my real name is Delicia, and Molly and I found each other on TikTok. That's why I love this app so much. And it's just so interactive and the same. I felt like Molly was giving real solid advice for HR and making it less scary because I think even students that I work with are like, oh, I don't want to talk to HR. Like, I don't know how to talk to them. And I'm like, they're real people. You can talk to
We're real
them like,
people.
hello, hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Oh, I don't know what happened. My phone's acting funky and it's not even Mercury retrograde. So to continue with the question of what makes a good career coach, I think it's someone who really knows where the student is in their development and how do we get them from point A to point B. And every student is going to be different. So any videos that you see on TikTok, on the internet, YouTube, anywhere is very generalized information. And you have to take what resonates for you and your lived experience and leave the rest. Like one part of what someone's training says will resonate with you, and then if it doesn't, then keep watching other videos or keep it moving. Not necessarily take everything with a grain of salt. I think is the best, I guess, feedback for online educational purposes. But what makes a good HR person or educator or someone in that space?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've definitely worked in very professional, very educated environments and worked in more casual and relaxed environments. And I think what's made me successful is I really try, to sound like a normal, comfortable human being and not come across really authoritative and listen and give people a chance, to tell me everything they want to tell me. Being educated is important, not just school, but
Yeah,
you don't need school to be great in HR, by the way. It's just
yeah,
you have to know employment law, and you have to know how to talk to people. And I learned a lot of that communication advice, or communication, I guess, strategies being a yoga teacher. Like, learning about nervous systems was a big one. Like, I need to stay grounded. So I need to know if I'm in
Mm-hmm.
fight, flight, freeze, or submit. Oh, Lou, there's no Dan. It's Delicia. There's no Dan. Someone said, hi, Molly and Dan. I think maybe the name of my live might say Dan. I
Oh,
might have forgot to change it.
I think I
Um,
put like career plus HR. I don't know if people can see
oh,
that
good.
though.
Well, I don't think I changed my live name. But I think for me, when I was younger, I'm 38, I used to get like defensive and in fight or flight. And, you know, when I learned more about nervous systems, I now learn how to control mine, but I also know when to recognize that in other people. And I
Mm,
know how kind of what the like anti-venom to that is. So if someone's in that fight mode, you want to exude kind of the feeling of befriending. And if someone's in flight, you want to be very grounding. So you're kind of doing the opposite, right? And
right.
if someone's in freeze, you want to create more of a softening environment. And if someone's in that submit or collapsed kind of state, you want to offer some empowerment, some encouragement, some confidence. And then when people come in pretty hyped up, you can kind of mirror them and step it back down. But I also was lucky enough, I was not good at this when I was younger. You know, the golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. Well, guess
Yeah.
what? Not everyone wants to be treated like me.
Yeah.
So the platinum rule is treat people how they want to be treated. And once I started incorporating that and learning how to manage my own nervous system and recognize nervous systems in others and not take that as like something personal, like if someone comes in a nervous system state, I'm not taking that personally. And then in order to treat people how they want to be treated, you have to get to know them. So I made more of an effort to get to know people, like even little things, right? Like some people love their birthday recognized in the office. Some people find that
Yeah.
mortifying. And so like
True.
you have to get to know people, and then when you treat them how they like, that relationship is better and there's more trust.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this on my podcast, which is going to be dropping soon, season two. Molly is there as
Oh,
HR.
oh,
I haven't picked
imagine
dates
that.
yet, but it's
Surprise.
coming.
We had a
And
great
we,
talk. We could have talked for like 5 hours.
for 5 hours,
Good
I
luck
think it's like,
editing that.
I know. I was like, I don't want to cut anything out. I think I'll just cut. No, there's nothing to cut out. I think it's going to be like an hour and 20 minutes maybe, but it's good
Mhm.
information. It's the both sides, like career development and HR, which is why we're doing this live because we complement our content and what we teach very well. Every time someone asks me a question, I'm like, go watch Molly's videos. I'm constantly
Nice.
sending your videos over
That's nice.
to anyone who DMs me or asks me questions or is like afraid of HR. I'm like, see, Molly's in HR and she's approachable.
Just don't be acting too bad in the workplace or I'm going
Yeah.
to have to come for you. But
Yes. Yes.
if you're
Yes.
mistreating people, mm,
Yeah.
it's
Of
not going to work out.
course.
So the
Would
whole
you?
reason for people just like tuning in is
Yeah.
I was a TikTok watcher. I was not a poster. I didn't even have like a picture on my account. I just, you know, I found people's creativity on TikTok really awesome. And I found it more interesting than like the coronavirus news 24/7. And
Yeah.
the whole reason I started posting is I saw like horrible advice, and I'd share horrible videos on my Instagram and be like, this is wrong. This is wrong. And I found one of Delisa's and I was like, actually, this is great. This is actually great. So that's kind of how it started. I was a fan.
I love it. I know. I did like a video of, oh, it was like salary posting on a job
Yes,
description.
that's what it
And
was.
I literally saw the tweet and I screenshot. I was like, we have to have a conversation about this. And I'm pretty small still on TikTok. So I was like, oh, maybe my followers will see it. But that one blew up and people stitched it and saw it and we're having
I
conversations. I was
stitched
like,
it.
I know you were the first person to stitch it. And I was like, wait a minute, this is a conversation starter. I love it. So if you haven't watched it, we talked about salary, whether to put it on your job posting or not, and if that's a thing. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
watching, let us know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the salary thing. So that's like pretty progressive. Like I think,
Yeah.
our parents maybe or our grandparents, they worked at the same place for 30 years. They worked at two places for a really long period of time. And there wasn't as much negotiation. And as times changed and as, the internet came about and access to information grew, people started talking, which is great. And then negotiation started occurring. Well, guess who suffers in negotiation? Women and minorities, including people with disabilities, including people with certain backgrounds, including veterans, people from other countries, mothers with
Mm-hmm.
children. And so while negotiating can be great, studies have shown when a man and woman both negotiate, the man will do better. And not because they're better at negotiating, but because of how
Right.
they're perceived. And then we've
Right.
got the whole other issue of men tend to apply for jobs that they're not quite qualified for, which is great. Whereas women tend to wait until they're fully qualified to apply. And then you've got the issue of if children are present, it's typically women who miss more time to care for children. And so women and minorities have suffered in,
Yeah.
in pay and wage inequities. And I'm so supportive of post the pay range so people know. And I'm pushing my clients and other companies to have strict criteria on how they pay.
Mm.
So if they're sticking to the criteria, there shouldn't be an inequity. Just, as an easy example, like a super general example. If a company pays based on experience and each year of experience is worth whatever, then everybody will get their experience calculated. And there's no, oh, we're going to pay the woman less, we're going to pay the black man less. It's no, we pay based on experience. And if you have this, you get that. And if you get this, you have that. And then when you get this, you'll get that. And gosh, I get some pushback on
Mm.
that. Just a little.
Just a little.
Just a little. And I assume you got some pushback on the posting pay ranges.
Oh yeah, some people were like, "No, that just." I posted the video on LinkedIn too, just to see what would happen based on like the community, right? TikTok is its own community, its own vibe, Instagram's its own vibe, and then LinkedIn is a whole other jungle. And someone commented on it and said that they wouldn't post on the job posting because they think that women would apply even less because they wouldn't think that they're qualified to make that amount of money for a specific job posting. And I said, that kind of makes sense, but I think that might even encourage them a little bit more. Let's say there's a job that they meet only 70% criteria, but then they see the value of the price, I mean, the salary range or the salary, the base salary, and they're like, oh, I can do that. I'm worth that, and actually apply versus not apply.
Well, and the other pushback is I hear recruiters and business owners say, well, if I post that the job is between 70 and 100,000, everyone's
Mm,
going to want 100,000. Everyone's going to assume they should get the max of the range or they're worth the max of the range. And my pushback to that is, yeah, but if you define how you place people in the range, is it based on experience, performance, education, license, worksite location? Like maybe you pay more here, less there. Maybe you pay more for speaking another language. And you tell candidates, hey, the range is 70 to 100. To get
mm-hmm.
100, you'd need this, right? Like to get the midpoint, you'd need that. And then candidates would probably think, oh, that makes sense. Thank you for telling me. So there's a way to combat the people who see a max range and like just think they should get it. It's
Mm-hmm.
no, if the range is 70 to 100 and you have 1 year of experience, unlikely you're getting 100.
Yeah.
Unlikely. So,
Yeah. Explaining that
but
range is so important, like how they fall within that. And that's transparency, which we talked a lot about too, is being transparent in the job application process, in the
yeah,
conversation. And something that we were talking about towards the end of the podcast episode was the differences between career development, HR, and then recruiting is its own beast, its own like field.
yep, absolutely. Yes.
So I'm starting to do, or maybe I should start posting a little bit more education on those three differences because I think students or anyone applying to a job gets confused and they just lump everything within HR. But
Yes.
like you explained very well in the podcast, is that HR is an operations role that doesn't necessarily make money for the company. It's an expense.
So yes, Marie, I forgot to change the title of my life. This is not Dan. This is not Dan.
Sorry.
This
Another
is
D.
Delicia, and she is a really great career coach. There's a lot of not great career advice out there. She gives great advice, which is why we're chatting today. But I want to
Yes.
know, what is some like bad career advice you've seen floating around out there that you'd just like to kind of correct?
Yes. There's a couple of stitches that I have saved that I need to post. And Dan actually talked about this on his page a lot, is about that interview question, or no, that advice for interviews that was running around for like a month or so. I don't know if it's still happening, but it was, this is the best interview question you have to ask at the end.
Oh,
And it was, you have to ask the interviewer or the recruiter, what do you need in this role, or what is the best thing for this role? So basically throwing it back to the interview so you can get the information and then change your answer based on what they say. That's the
yeah.
strategy.
Or what is there anything that I, didn't demonstrate or did demonstrate that you have concern? Do you have any concerns about putting me in this role? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So it's like a clickbait and switch kind of strategy. And when I was at first, it sounds good, like, oh yeah, let me get more intel on the company. But from a career coaching perspective and career development perspective, it sounds very unprepared, that you didn't do your research of the company, the role, or even the department where you applied, and what their expectations are of you. You didn't do research on what that role is outside of the company. So let's say at Coca-Cola, a program manager means X, Y, and Z, but at TikTok it means another thing, or Instagram it means another thing, because it depends on what the company is essentially selling or producing. So you can't ask that question without sounding like you didn't do your homework, and that comes off unprepared, that you're not paying attention to details, and per- personally, like a boring question. It's
Well, and
just
imagine
boring.
imagine how many recruiters have been asked that question and are like so bored by it. And I just can't imagine putting a hiring manager on the spot. Like, I'm the one being interviewed, and sure, candidates also are interviewing to see if they even want to work there. Absolutely, yes, I agree with that. But to put the person interviewing you on the spot, like, is there anything, about me that, wouldn't that would make you not want to give me this job? Or, you know, anything like that puts them on the spot is kind of like not great. Like, and I don't think most hiring managers or recruiters are really interested in saying, actually, I thought you bombed it. I thought you bombed the interview. It's just, that's not super realistic. And,
Yeah.
during the interview, you're hearing things as a candidate. And ideally, you're using your time to ask questions to either
Mm-hmm.
ask people about themselves or more about the company to show you care, or you're
Mm-hmm.
asking a question based on something you heard that, to your point, shows that you paid attention or did
Mm-hmm.
research, or you're asking something genuine, that also kind of makes you look good, as Dan calls it, like a humble brag. As an
Yeah.
example, like, in my current role, I really use data analytics to do this. Is that something that would be helpful in this company? Like, it's kind of like you've got this time and you want to maximize the value, and
Mm-hmm.
asking a canned question that like everyone else is asking is, you know, it's not great.
Yeah. And then I did some research on who were posting it. I was like, oh, are these career coaches? Are these people who work in higher education? Like, what's their background? And it was their only post about career, and everything else was like about fitness or food or whatever. And not to say that people have to consistently post about one topic on social media. People do what they want on social media. But that's going back to what we said earlier, is like, take what you see and listen with a grain of salt, and really vet your people. Vet who is
Yep.
saying this,
Yep.
vet when they're saying it, how they're saying it is. And like, some of the videos are very clickbaity. They're like, what do you want to do with your rest of your life? And then they reel in and they talk about something totally different. And that's their strategy to get likes and views on TikTok. And that's fine. Do you. If you want to be TikTok famous, that's all you. But if you're actually genuinely trying to grow in your career and get a job, you have to vet who you're getting your advice from.
Yeah, and it's hard to make a TikTok video and give information in 60
Yeah.
seconds. Like 60
Yeah.
seconds is not very long.
Yeah.
But my problem is I see advice that either has no nuance or disclaimer, like this
Mm,
applies to tech or this applies to healthcare or this is really great for people with not a lot of experience, like a college grad, or there's
yeah.
no nuance and there's no disclaimer. It's do
Yeah.
this, it works. And it's like, and it's even more disappointing to what you said is the people giving that advice, you look them up on LinkedIn, they've never worked in the field they're giving advice in. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're giving career advice and they've never been a hiring manager, they've never been a career coach, or they're giving, HR advice, they've never worked in an HR field in an HR role ever, or they're giving like negotiating offer advice and they've never negotiated, like they've never been in a role to approve an offer. And it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, yeah. Oh, Dan. So Dan, I see that you just joined. I forgot to change the title of my life. This is not
Does
you.
he want to join too?
This is
Can
not
more
you.
than
I don't think he can. Dan
can
says
more
hi,
than
other Dan.
can more than
Oops.
2 people join? How does that work?
No, not yet. Anyways, no.
Oh, dang.
Yes, everyone listening, this isn't Dan. I forgot to change the name of this. My fault. But you get just as interesting of a conversation. So,
I hope so. I hope I'm as funny and sarcastic as Dan.
well, I mean, as anybody is as funny and sarcastic as Dan. I'm so glad I'm on his good side. Gosh, I wouldn't want to get roasted. Although Salesforce Ben roasted me yesterday very nicely.
Oh, what did he say? I have to watch. Like,
Oh,
I'll go watch it.
he
I'll go
just
watch it.
Oh, thanks, Dan, for the flowers. He just was asking like an HR question, so I answered, and he asked another question, so I answered, and then I made a Salesforce comment. So he works in Salesforce, and I use
Yeah.
Salesforce, and he kind of was like, "What? You're an HR person. Like, shouldn't you be using HR software?" And I was like, I mean, it's not my decision. Like, it's
It's
just,
not.
it was very dry humor. And then I congratulated him for roasting me and let him know that because he exceeded like my expectations, he was getting a 1% annual increase. Because, the whole theory of like, you did such a great job, you're such a great employee, here's a 1% increase. And
Yeah.
people are like, what?
What?
That's another thing. Well, first of all, I wish annual reviews were not a thing, but I also wish
Yeah.
annual
Oh.
reviews were tied to pay, because it's like you get a below average review or an average review or an amazing review, and it tends to be that most people get the same increase or like a very similar increase. Like maybe some people get 2%, some people get 3%. And it's just so odd to like give someone an excellent review and give someone a pretty good review and they get the
Yeah.
same increase. It's
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
insulting. It's
What would
weird.
be something else instead of an annual review?
So I believe that annual reviews were created and they started to do something good, right? Like they wanted to create a time where employees could get feedback, ask questions, and have documentation of their performance, that's good. I support that. But ideally, managers and employees are talking way more frequently than that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen managers kind of take the tendency of, oh, you're doing so good, everyone's doing so good, you're great, because they want to be nice. Or some managers are like way too harsh. Like,
Mm.
have you ever heard like people say, well, no one exceeds expectations? And it's like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like, of course people can exceed are you serious? Like, really? You haven't ever been to a restaurant and someone
Mm-hmm.
exceeded your expectations? Like, really? So there's just no consistency. Like, if you have a rating system, I've just heard like everybody's 100 or nobody's 100. It's like, what? And I wish that like managers would just develop like a monthly or quarterly just session to like talk to their employees, and they can document that. Like, sure, document it. But I feel like the annual review system, whether you're using it to formally like rate them or to rank your employees, is not useful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can just do it so many other ways. And I feel like it was created to make sure managers were meeting with employees once a
Right.
year is ridiculous. So for the managers who really don't give feedback, once a year isn't enough. It's not good
No,
enough.
yeah.
It's not enough. And I've just seen so many of them kind of rushed. Like managers are busy, so they rush it. They don't keep good notes for the year, so they sit down to write them, and they're like, "Huh, okay, so last year, it's like, do you remember what you did last year?" I'm like, and then having to do a self review. Like, is someone going to say they're terrible?
Yeah.
Is someone going to say they're perfect? It just, I find it odd. I don't
And
like them.
the fact that it's a year, like, especially during the pandemic, right? It started in March, let's say go back to 2020, and before the pandemic, that's part of the yearly review too, but everything hit the fan. So it's like, was there room and space for that kind of nuance and that kind of shift and change in society?
Yeah.
I don't know because I'm not working at a like institution, but
Yeah.
I remember
And I
the
just,
annual reviews were just like interesting.
and like one of the best bosses I ever had when I was an HR business partner, there were 4 HR business partners, and she met with us like every 3 weeks, kind of, for like 45 minutes. And it was a time where we could ask her questions, like weigh in on our work. We could get feedback. We could talk about what we wanted to do. Like, hey, I'd really like to work on this, or I'd like to learn that. And she kept notes on that. Like, she kept everything in a file. She had like a template just to put
Uh-huh.
notes in. And I thought that was great. Like, now that institution also we had to do annual reviews, which she didn't really love, but she could then go back on all those notes as a reminder to actually write a good, useful review. Um, but like just being able to have dedicated, uninterrupted time with my boss every 3 weeks was great. Now, of course, there were times I went in her office like unannounced or scheduled a 15-minute meeting, whatever. But
Right.
it was good because you knew you had that chunk of time. So sometimes I would just say, oh, I'll just save that for my one-to-one, or, oh, I'll just wait to do that till my one-to-one. Or I'd be like, actually, I need to barge into her office now, so I'll do that. But
I need to talk to her now.
but
Or
at the
him.
very least, she had notes from all of those sessions so she could write a good review, because it was a time to say, I'm working on this, or I just finished this and it was awesome, or what did you think of this? And she could document it. So that was good. But how many managers do that? Probably almost none.
Yes. Yes.
Even the ones who are like, my door is always open, it's like probably basically none do that.
Which is so interesting. Do you think that's a crack in training or desirability or in expectations, managing expectations for that? Like, where is the
I think
disconnect?
I think managers are busy. I think they're genuinely busy. I think that some managers still have discomfort around having like a one-to-one and potentially being asked difficult questions or hearing something difficult. I think sometimes managers just don't think it's important. Not that they don't like give a shit, but just that it doesn't cross their mind. Like, they forget what it's like to be a direct report or an employee. Like, sometimes managers have been a manager for so long, they don't remember what it feels like to not have that authority and to not have that kind of in the know knowledge. Like, managers are more in the know than employees because, they get exposed to other information. So I think that disconnect just gets bigger. Because I was a manager for a long time, so I know what it's like to be privileged to get information that employees don't get, and then you forget
Right.
that like they want to know a lot of that too when it's appropriate. And then you forget that employees want you to know, what's important to you, and that they're working hard and they want feedback too. Sometimes you just forget. You get busy. There's a disconnect. But I
Yeah.
loved that my boss gave us time like every 3 weeks, and she really made it a point to basically never cancel them, regardless of how busy she was. And that communicated that it was important. Because imagine if you had a cadence of one-to-ones with your boss and they were always canceling them or rescheduling them. So she made it a point to basically never do it. And, even though I didn't always need the time, like there were some occasions where I was like, I really don't have much to like talk about, which is fine. but she made it a point to basically never cancel them.
Mm. I love that. That's so important because then that makes you feel like you're valued, your time is valued, your work is valuable, and that increases the motivation, right? We talked a lot on the podcast, intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation and what motivates employees to show up and do good work.
Yeah. And she modeled great behavior. If you have
Yeah.
direct reports and you hope that they're going to be good leaders someday or be your replacement so you can move up, you need to model more than just like getting shit done. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
And I think it's fair for employees to ask for that. But you have to be reasonable.
Yeah.
Does your boss have time to meet with you every week? I don't know. Maybe if you're doing a project, maybe. But sometimes employees also have to manage their own expectations and understand that leaders are busy, and asking for too much just may not work out. But,
Mm-hmm.
Every 3 weeks or so was actually really great, and sometimes more than necessary. So
Yeah. And that's good. I always give that advice to students, or like, how do I build a communication? A clear channel of communication is manage up, right? Suggest if you're not getting that 3 week or 1 month check in, ask for it, advocate for yourself. That's
yeah,
within your expectation, even. And if there starts to be conversations about, well, that's not important, or I don't need to have that, like from your manager down, then start thinking, is this really a company you want to move up in? Is this really where you
yeah,
want to stay long term? Because if that's how that level of management is connecting to you, what does it look like higher up? That's just,
yeah.
for me, think it's a trickle down kind of management style or communication style. That's company culture sometimes.
And it's especially important for younger professionals or people newer in a career to have that kind of connection with your boss. I mean, I think as you advance in whatever career you're in and gain more skill, you're not going to need as much time with your boss. But if you're
Yeah.
newer in the field or a recent graduate or just newer in your career, maybe younger, starting somewhere where you can have a boss that will give you that will really help develop you. And imagine if in your first one or two jobs you barely spoke to your boss because they were too busy. It's going to impact your development.
Yeah. And you're going to get jaded a lot faster than maybe having a good open communication with your boss or having those
Yep.
meetings.
Yep.
Yes. Are there any questions? Is there like a question thing here?
So somebody
Uh,
commented that they hate self-assessments, which, yep, who likes it, right? Or I don't know if you can hear my dog moaning in the background, but that's not my stomach. That is my Labradoodle. So
they want to
somebody
get in on
said
the action.
somebody said that they like quarterly conversations and take review out of it, and I don't hate that. I mean,
Okay.
who has fun during their review? I've even gotten great reviews in the process. I don't look forward to it, and some things aren't going to be your favorite, but I just find that the annual review process, nobody enjoys that. Leaders don't like taking the time to write good ones, so sometimes they write lukewarm ones. Employees are nervous, or they leave not happy because they they feel like their boss doesn't see or understand them, or the conversation was stiff. like
Mm-hmm.
I just find them, I think if they were really well done all the time, then maybe I'd be more on board, but I just don't find that. I've
Yeah.
read so many, I've had to help so many leaders with reviews that are so bad, you can't deliver this, this is so bad, and they're either busy or they're kind of out of touch, and it's just hard.
Yeah. What do you respond to when people say HR is not your friend, or HR is not there to help you? It's only there to defend the company. I know you and Dan have done videos about this, but I'm curious
Curse
for the
words.
people
I
on the
think
live.
curse words. I think curse words. And the hill I will die on is HR is friendlier than finance.
Yeah.
I will die on that hill.
We have to get that
Ugh.
on a t-shirt.
I might. I might. Um, what do I
That's
think?
good.
So I take that statement not personally. It doesn't personally make me mad. I am very offended by the statement because I think it's very damaging. So
Mm.
if people just in general hear and see the statement, so we just got an amen, we are friendlier than finance. Thank you. I mean, duh.
Wait
I
for the
actually have a
t-shirts,
friend.
everyone.
I have a friend in finance. She hates it when I say that. She's actually really friendly, but she hates it when I say that. But it's just so damaging because if you subtly hear HR is not your friend, HR is not your friend, HR is only there to protect the company. Someday when you have an issue, like you're being sexually harassed, or
Yeah.
you might be feeling like you're discriminated against. In your mind, you're going to think, well, I can't go to HR because like they're not my friend and they just protect the company and they're not going to help me. And that to me is so destructive. Like the creators putting out that HR is not your friend, or like just commenters commenting that, I don't think they have any idea how harmful it is. Like, again, when people hear a message enough times, they
Mm.
start to believe it. And so
Mm-hmm.
then you have a problem and you think, oh, I can't go to HR. Like, everybody says they don't help. And, you know, they're only there to protect the company. So they're not going to help me. And there's just like so many. It's like, first of all, employees are the company. So by protecting the company, we're protecting employees. They also don't realize that, like, I'm an employee, me, like,
Mm.
I'm an employee too. And then I push back. It's like, which HR job descriptions have friend on it? None of them do. Not one. And also, no other department has that. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe like an outreach, like
Yeah.
volunteer program.
Community
They're like,
builder.
sure, right. Like the cruise ship director might need to be your friend. But it's like IT's job description doesn't say they're your friend. So when IT isn't your friend, does anyone care? When facilities isn't your friend, does anyone care? When like someone at a restaurant isn't your friend, does anyone care? It's like, why is it that we get in trouble for not being a friend, but like no one else does? Like, have you ever had your computer break and IT doesn't fix it and you're just pissed at them? But you don't say, well, IT's not your friend. Don't call IT when your computer's broken because they're not your friend. You sound dumb. You sound dumb. That's how I feel.
Yeah. Like you're not gonna
Blood pressure
call.
here.
It
Nervous
went
system in
up.
fight mode. But the biggest hot button for me, other than I think people sound dumb, is just that it's damaging.
Yeah.
And I understand that people go to HR and they might interact with someone who is not like friendly and doesn't give
Friendly.
a shit.
Yeah.
Like there are people in HR who are not good at their job. And name a profession or career field that doesn't have that. There are bad nurses, bad doctors, and guess what? If I had a bad nurse on a few occasions and then tried to say that all nurses are bad, I seriously think all nurses would come to my house and burn it down, as they should, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have a bad experience, you know, at an Italian restaurant, are you going to say all Italian food is bad? No. So it's
No,
like, yes, there
it's
are
just
bad
that
HR
one place.
people. Yeah, it's like, yes, there are bad HR people. And there are bad nurses, bad doctors, bad dentists, bad teachers. Gosh, I have had some terrible teachers. I'm sure you have. Are all
Yeah.
teachers bad? No. Teachers aren't even required to be your friend, right? I mean, they need to
Right.
build rapport with students, but they're not
Yeah.
required to be your friend.
No.
And they don't get shit for that, do they? Just HR. We just pick on HR around here.
I know. Where did that start? I was thinking about it the other day because I don't know what video. I might have saved it, but the whole comment section was going back and forth of HR this, HR that. And I was like, why did they get this bad rep? Because one person had a very bad experience maybe with HR and then they made a TikTok about it and now everyone's riding on that bandwagon. But like we said earlier, if you're just hopping on, you have to vet who is saying what and where and in what capacity they have. I don't want to say authority, but expertise in the field, right? Like you're not going to call a plumber to fix your oven, right? You're not going to call a doctor or a dentist to fix your heart, like for heart surgery. So why would you not call HR if you're having an issue in a particular situation?
Well, and people forget, like, we're a business function. It's like, is your coffee table your friend? Like, again, like, is IT your friend? I can't tell you how many times I've had trouble with my laptops or my computer or my phone, right? Or like the mobile device management isn't working, and right? And I don't just think, well, IT's not my friend. F them. Like, I don't I
I'm
don't
not
think that.
calling
And
them.
sometimes our like HR has to tell people no. It doesn't mean that we don't care about them. It just means like, I'm sorry you missed the deadline to enroll in benefits. You just now have to wait a year. And then they get mad and it's like, no, it's not me just holding a line because I have a power trip. Like, there's actually laws around benefits enrollments. Like, if you miss a deadline, you can't just enroll. That's not me being persnickety. It just is what it is. Or,
Yeah.
like rules with sick time or PTO. It's like sometimes there are rules, and in order to not discriminate, we can't give preferential treatment to some people and not others. And unfortunately, you know, people think that HR makes all these decisions, and it's not always us. Like,
Yeah.
we want you to spend money. Finance doesn't. Like, maybe I do want to fire an employee, but the leader doesn't. I can't tell you how many times I have recommended that somebody be fired for terrible behavior, and the leader's like, nah, I don't want to fire him. And I'm just like, and then of course the employee who made the complaint or, whatever's going on, they just think that HR didn't care. And it's like, no, actually, I cared. Your manager sucks.
Yeah.
Like, one specific situation, a supervisor said very blatant racist terms, like, could not be confused with anything other than racism. There were witnesses. The employee stated, like, the supervisor said, yes, I said that. So we have full admission. And it happened on 2 occasions. And the director did not want to fire that person. My recommendation was to fire that person, period. And so imagine the people in the department who heard those racist terms about them. That person didn't get fired, and they think HR doesn't care, HR didn't do their job. I'm like, no, actually, your director is a problem. And in that specific situation, when on the second occasion the director overruled me, because they can, I went to the executive. And the director is probably still mad at me. That director probably still hates me. I don't really care. But I mean,
Yeah.
I had to kind of risk some of my work political capital. You know what I mean? Like, people don't like to be usurped, right? So I
Yeah.
went above the director to the executive, and no one likes that, right? Like, no one likes kind of being tattled on. I didn't
Yeah.
really care. That director hates me for the rest of their life, whatever. But
That's on
like,
them.
that's what it takes sometimes, and it's hard. And if the executive is like, not going to do anything about it, I still get blamed. HR still doesn't care. It's like, it wasn't me. It
I,
wasn't me.
I did what I could do in your situation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And we're a
imagine,
business function, right? Like,
yeah.
again, like, payroll doesn't hate you. Like, benefits doesn't hate you. The recruiter doesn't hate you. Like, we all have jobs to do, just like anyone else has a job to do.
And benefits is really ruled by the law, right? Federal and state laws.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
if
yeah.
someone doesn't like that, then go advocate for a senator, a mayor, a legislator that will change that law for something that you like, that's more favorable for you.
Yeah.
And that's where I don't think people understand they have power in their voice, in their vote, in whatever you want to call it. But like, it doesn't, you don't make the rules. Like, Molly doesn't
No.
create these laws in PTO and federal benefits and state laws. So
Yep.
I always find that so interesting because I mean, there are certain things that are company culture and company things that can change and policies that I'm sure you can advocate for, but state and federal stuff is like out of your wheelhouse.
Well, and it's like, we might enforce the PTO policy. Like, we might enforce that. But I don't get to pick the budget for PTO. It's not up to it's actually like not up to HR to determine if you get 10 vacation days or 100. Ultimately, it comes down to finance. Like, HR wants to spend money, but a lot of times, like, we have a budget too. And
Yeah.
it's not that like HR doesn't want to give you more PTO. No, like we want more PTO too. We have a budget, or the organization has a budget that HR did not set, and we're just enforcing what is. Like, HR people also don't agree with all the policies, by the way. Like, just because I work in HR doesn't mean I automatically agree with every policy. Some of them I'm like, oh, this policy.
Yeah.
Or we write a policy the way we like it, and then we're told no.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've written quite a few policies where the executives were like, nope, can't be that. And you're just like,
why not?
But then who gets blamed, right? It's HR.
HR.
So.
Always.
But it doesn't negate that some HR people are terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And it also, like, what field doesn't have a terrible person in it? I don't know why we get picked on so much.
I know. I've been thinking about it lately. I'm like, why do they get, like, all the bad rep? I don't know. And so how do we shift that culture or that narrative? Do we just, like, demystify and debunk everything?
Well, Dan from HR made a really good point that HR doesn't market itself well. Like we HR as a collective field doesn't do a great job of, like, telling our story. And what's been great about TikTok is I kind of thought I was alone in my HR beliefs and alone in my, like, approach. Like, I do everything I can to be, like, friendly and comfortable and normal and you know, try to improve HR and improve companies, like getting rid of annual reviews and things like that. Yeah. And I found Dan and was like, whoa, I'm not alone. And then I found so many other good creators that were either in HR or did things like similar, like great career coaches, great recruiters. And I didn't realize I'm not alone. It's just, I think there's kind of a line in the sand of, like, old school HR and not old school HR. And it doesn't have to do with age. It's more just about, like, some people go into HR because they love rules and they love enforcing rules, which, okay, like, there's a need for that. Yeah. But if you aren't able to recognize that people are humans and that everybody had a childhood once that may not have been like yours, and it's unrealistic to think that someone's childhood isn't going to show up at work, and just because you think something's stupid doesn't mean the employee does. And, like, it's just like, but it's like basic human decency. Like, if a friend is talking about how excited they are to go to Florida and I think Florida's stupid, why would I say, like, Florida's stupid? Why would you go there? Like, that's me being shitty. Instead it's like, oh, cool. You must be really excited about that. Like, what are you looking forward to doing? Like, just because I don't like humidity doesn't mean
that, like, everyone else doesn't.
Yep. But yeah, I think that HR has just kind of been in the shadows and in the dark, like, doing our thing, whereas, like, other fields have been out more marketing themselves and we haven't, which has been a miss. But it's no different than, like, some nurses and doctors are great at building rapport and that patient experience, and some nurses and doctors, like, don't have a great bedside manner. I use that example a lot because, like, my dad was a doctor for 35 years. And, like, that's why I always use that example, because I grew up hearing him talk about Press Ganey scores and, like, the change when it was actually expected that doctors have a good bedside manner, because it used to not be. So I grew up hearing my dad talk about, like, the growing pains in that, like, doctors getting surveyed not just on, did you, like, cure someone or did you, like, use appropriate tests, but actually it's like, did the patient like you? And my dad was a chief of staff, actually, too. So he was in charge of all, like, medical staff, like MDs. And it was super hard. Like, doctors kind of felt like, I either have to make the patient like me or give them good care. Like, do I have to give a drug addict drugs so I don't get a bad survey score? Like, that was what it was like in the 90s. And there was a lot of angst with doctors and nurses, a lot of, like, power trips. So I grew up, like, hearing that and kind of, like, just hearing him talk about the shift in that. That's, like, why I use that example a lot. But it's no different, right? Old school, new school of anything. And, younger generations are a lot more used to respecting people's emotions and differences, whereas, like, older generations, it wasn't as required.
And the same, I think we see that with technology and education now. There's a line in the sand between older educators who had no idea how to use Zoom at the start. Some quit. Some said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm giving
Yep.
packets. See you
Yep.
next year. Like we
Yep.
saw that like difference now with the panini, as I like to call it. But so we're seeing that across the board. And I think medicine and doctors is a great example because everyone hopefully goes to the
Well,
doctor.
teaching is a great example. We've all had a teacher that made you feel seen and important, and we've all had teachers that you thought hated you and like didn't care about you at all. Like I remember my parents having to go into teacher conferences and be like, stop being mean to my kid, you know, like because I'd come home like crying, you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
or afraid of my teacher, and they'd have to be like, why is our daughter afraid of you, like what is going on, right?
Why
Whereas
doesn't
like
she
some
want to go to
teachers it's
school?
like, yeah, it's like some teachers and you can't wait to go to school, so it's like no profession is immune to that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
well, I've got about I have a couple more
Yes.
minutes,
Yes.
so
Any
I want to,
questions?
well, I want to hear about like what advice you have for people looking for new careers or people applying for jobs.
Oh, yes. A couple things. Number one, my biggest advice that I find for me feels very not as nuanced, but a lot of people don't do it, is if you know a company or an institution or a nonprofit or anywhere that you want to work, go directly to the website. Go directly to what they have to offer on their website and go to careers. They have it on, like, it's usually at the bottom of the website next to the privacy policy or whatever the other stuff. It says career, job search, or work with us, or hang out with us. Like some very trendy companies say, come hang out with us, which is really come work with us.
Yeah.
Or some are even putting, I noticed, like we're fully remote, apply here. So definitely go to the website. And if you start to see what positions you want, put it in LinkedIn and then see who comes up with those job titles. And sometimes you'll get the recruiter or an HR person or someone who previously worked there, maybe at another company, and send them a DM, send them a LinkedIn message and say, hey, I want to touch base about this company, learn more about it, or be direct. I want to learn about this job role. Could it be something I could pivot into and set up an interview, set up a, or not interview, set up a coffee chat with that person. And you'll be surprised that 9 out of 10 times someone will get on a coffee chat with you to talk about their experiences, how they ended up in that role, especially the entertainment industry. I don't know what people are into who's on this chat with us, but people like to tell their stories and
Oh
tell
yes.
how they got there. So
Oh
if
yes.
you go at it as like, I want to learn about you, I want to learn about your story, I want to learn about how you got there, they're gonna talk to you. It's not about like, how do I get this HR role or how do I get this director job? I want to get this job. It has to be more relationship building. So that's something that I work a lot with students is or individuals. I say students a lot because I mostly work with recent graduates, right? So 0 out of 5 out of college who are still in college mode, still in undergrad kind of mentality. So that's why I say students, but it can be really any individual looking to pivot with their jobs. Is really build relationships. It really comes down to networking and building relationships. Even now, DM us on Instagram. I don't know if you can DM on TikTok. I don't know if that's really a thing, but we're both on Instagram. Send us a message and say, hey, I'm interested in this role. I want to talk to this person. Like, how do I do it? And I'm pretty sure Molly and I are going to respond and give you your next action step because it's really a lot simpler than what you think it is. And it's trust in yourself, trust in your expertise, in your resume. Like, you have the experience. It's about getting over that imposter syndrome, getting over that little voice in the back saying, you can't do this, you're not good enough. Like, you need 10 more years of experience, or you need an MBA, or you need a master's. No, I'm pretty sure you have the experience. If you're even feeling curious about a job or inkling about it, like, apply. You never know. Just apply, even if you meet 50% of the requirements.
Well, and so that's 100% true. And I like it when people think ahead. Like I've
Yeah.
talked to college students this year that I don't know. Like they just reach out on LinkedIn, they send the nicest emails, and they're saying like, "Hey, I'm interested in getting into HR. I know that what you do isn't something that I'd even qualify for 5 or 10 or whatever years, right?
Yeah.
But I'm interested in hearing how you got there and what I can do, what I can work on over the next 5 or 10 or 15 years to get there." And that's fantastic. Like, and just like you said, people do like to talk about themselves. And most people, if they're asked, for some help, want to help. Or if maybe they can't, they can let you know, like, who can. But I wish so you and I are closer in age. Like, when we graduated high school and college, we didn't have
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
No.
If your mom or dad or grandma didn't know someone, like you weren't networking really. So I'm always excited when like younger people reach out and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting into HR," or whatever. Like, what tips do you have? And it's like, that's awesome. Like, you and I didn't really have that when we were starting
Yeah.
out. It was just so much harder. So I think, just like you said, send a really nice LinkedIn message to someone, ask for help. And if they don't respond, don't worry about it. Like, I actually have my LinkedIn notifications off. I just check it
Mm-hmm.
once or twice a week. But,
Same.
just message someone else. Like, there's tons of HR and HR people, recruiters, any field that you can add, and then send a really, professional message. What I wouldn't do, though, is if there's an open job that you want, I wouldn't like find the recruiter, friend them, and try to like back
Oh, no,
channel
no.
it. It's a little like, ooh,
No.
but think ahead.
Yeah. And if they don't respond, don't make it this whole big thing about your self-worth.
Yeah, no,
Don't.
don't.
Don't go in a
Some
rabbit
people are just
hole.
some people aren't on LinkedIn much, and I don't have notifications set, so I don't answer like right away.
Exactly. Exactly. So just keep that in mind. If they don't respond, I would say even a week is like 7 to 10 business days. I think
Yeah.
like if someone responds in 10 days, like that's still pretty good.
Yep.
And people are like busy. We're in a pandemic. Like people are figuring their lives out. So don't make it a big thing about your self-worth.
Yep. Yep. Someone made a comment. Did you see the TikTok video about the voicemail that someone got from a recruiter?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
So she might have been a Hispanic female. I don't know her race. I don't know if she's black or Hispanic, but
Yeah.
she's not pale and white. And she got a voicemail, which she recorded, like she played it on TikTok. And basically the recruiter said, we just can't hire someone who's too black or a minority. That was a recruiter. I know that racism is real. Of course I do. It's so
Yeah.
hard for me to think that like really a recruiter or a hiring manager is that bigoted and dumb. I I've watched the video a bunch of times and I'm just like, how is this real? I mean, again, I know racism is alive and well. It's just
Yeah.
shocking that someone would like show how bigoted and racist they are in a voicemail. Like, really? Ugh.
Wow.
But yeah, a couple people have like on my side have mentioned that voicemail, and it was just like I didn't even like make a video about it because I still almost like I mean, someone give me that give me your number, I'll call her. Like, someone send me her phone number, I will call her.
I know, is the phone number on the TikTok?
No, it's not, but someone send it to me and I will call her.
Yeah, someone send me that video, please. I have not seen it.
It is like, and like the
Wow.
person who received the voicemail, the applicant or the candidate, appears to be like younger. I don't know how old anyone is, but they appear,
Yeah.
Younger. I just can't, like, I
Starting off
cannot
your like
imagine.
career like that?
Yes. Yep. I know.
Damn.
I still don't have like like normally I would make a video and be like, this is really like, this is bullshit and this is fucking messed up. But
Yeah. You're just so baffled that someone would even
yeah.
do that.
Yeah. It's like, please send me her number and the company name and I will personally call them. Let's just
Oh,
start there.
I'm sure TikTok already found her home, her address, everything.
I know.
They
Ugh.
move fast.
They do move fast. TikTok moves really fast. Well, I have to go to dinner with my sister, so I have to hop off.
Yes.
But we will do this. We will do this again.
Yes. Everyone, follow Molly,
And
follow
follow
me.
Delisa.
Her podcast episode is dropping soon, so if you like what we have to say, it's an hour and 20 minutes.
Yep, it's a good one.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you. See you later.
Bye.